Welcome back, everybody. So today I'm going to be talking about everything you need to actually paint your car. So I'm getting close now. I'm probably a couple days away from actually blowing up the paint booth and painting the car. So I was out the other day, I picked up all the paint and the clear coat, everything I needed there. And I had ordered my paint gun and a couple little odds and ends. So starting off with like the paint gun. So there's a ton of options out there, cheap, super high end, right in the middle. And the research that I came up with, I chose the Eastwood Concourse 2. This seemed to be probably like the best bang for your buck. I believe it's like $180. And this had really good ratings for kind of like a DIY entry-level painter. So this is what I chose. I did put the link for this in the description and some other ones that I thought were probably decent runner-ups for the most part. So let's check this thing out real quick. Comes with this little carrying suitcase because I'm probably gonna paint the car, put it back in here, and maybe in like a year from now or so, paint something else, or 2 years, I don't know. At the rate I'm going with this, I probably will never see this thing again because it's just a ton of work. But, so this is the gun here. I'll show you here. There comes with this, a couple nozzles. It looks like it comes with a pressure regulator. And then this goes right on top like that. So you mix your paint up and you pour it in there. So that's that. So it seems to be pretty good, but we will find out once we paint the car and see how that goes. Okay, so besides that, there are a couple little things that are really important is getting water in your air lines. So when I was sanding the car, I do have a water separator on my compressor, and when I was sanding it, it was still kicking up water. And I would drain the tank, and it's an old water separator that's on there. So I just did a little research and I got a separator, a dryer, and then I also got another water separator that goes on the bottom of the gun. So I just want to show you what these things look like. And then again, the links for all this stuff is in the description. Same thing, there are super high-end expensive stuff, super cheap stuff. I went with kind of like right in the middle. So this is THB. This is the water separator. And it's got a manual valve to relieve it. They have like automatic ones too, but I figured this will probably do the trick. And then I'm gonna put this first, and then this is a dryer, and it comes with these granulates that go in here. I'm not sure, but this goes in here, and these will kind of be linked together after the compressor airline, like this. So that'll help with the water coming out of the line, because the last thing you want is when you're painting the car to get a ton of water bubbles in the paint. You're essentially gonna have to sand everything back down and respray it. So I don't want to run into that. I just kind of want to do this once and kind of be done. So with that being said, I got this extra little inline filter here. Once this fills up, it has a relief valve. You hit this and the water will spray out. So you can kind of drain everything before you spray. So I'll drain the compressor, make sure there's no water in it before I shoot the car, and also make sure that there's no water in here. This will be at the bottom of the gun. So these are very important things, depending on what kind of compressor and what system you have. If this is your first time doing it, spend the money and get some sort of water separator, because the amount of labor and time it takes to prep the body is just so monotonous that like all you want to do is paint the car, then you're sanding the whole thing back down again. So it's one thing I definitely want to stay away from. So spend some little bit of money. They're not terribly expensive. I believe they're around like $40, $50 each, and this thing was like 20 bucks. And like I said, they do have cheaper options, but the links are there in the description. You want to check those things out. So that being said, I gotta hook that stuff up still to get the compressor ready. So besides all of those things, I went to the paint store, local paint store, wherever you can find someone who sells automotive paint. This place is like a PPG dealer. So I didn't want to go super high end with the paint because, as you can imagine, that can be very expensive depending on what color you're going with. If it's a metallic, if it's red, I mean, the cost of the paint is all over the place. So my plan was to do a base coat and a clear coat. So that is a color and then the clear coat on top. So if you're not familiar, there's also something called a single stage, which is just a shiny version of whatever color, black, red, white, and it's almost like the clear coat's in it. So it's like if you get a gloss spray paint can, essentially when you lay it down, that'll be the color. that is usually a cheaper option to go with if you wanted to do something with that. But you could go to these paint places and kind of price it out. The people that I went to were very nice, helped me kind of quote and kind of gave me like the best option for what I was trying to do. As far as, like I told them, I was going to keep the car and I wanted to do it nice, and what I went with was, it's PPG shop line paint, and it's not their low end, it's more their high end stuff. So I went with that as far as my base coat, which is just a red. It's not even a metallic red. But first thing I'm going to do is use a gray sealer over the whole car to keep everything in. So I went with that, and that's shop line too. And I got all the hardeners, reducers, everything I need for that, which they pretty much give you a sheet. They tell you how much you need for, you know, your application, how much to mix it. It's like 4 1-to-1, and they give you a printout for the sealer, the base, and the clear coat, which is really cool, and it's all in details and the pressure that you need to spray it with. So if you're not confident, all this information will really help you out. So like I said, shop line for the base coat, and for the clear coat I went with something a little bit more expensive. It's not super high end, it's Deltron, and supposedly this is actually really, really good, and this kind of makes up for not the most expensive base coat, I was told. So this is what I want with the clear coat, so this should be pretty good. And they tell you how many coats you're supposed to use for it. Forget what it is, like 2 or 3 coats of base, and the same as clear. But all that kind of information, they were really helpful, and they'll tell you how much you need for your car, so, which is pretty good, because I went into it not knowing, and my father worked at a dealership, and they would go and just mix up what they needed per car. So I wasn't sure if it was a gallon, 2 gallons, so it ended up being 1 gallon of paint that I was needing. They said essentially you probably got away with 3/4, but I went with a little extra just in case. So I got the mixing cups, the strainers, stirrers, everything I needed from the paint place, the sealer, base, clear, all that came out to $1,700. So it may sound like a lot of money, but with the more high-end stuff, it could be double, if not triple, just in materials alone. So just to give you a price point reference, this is what I went with, $1,700, and it's really not terrible compared to if you actually have to go somewhere, pay someone to paint your car. That could be anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000, just an exterior paint job. So food for thought there. And I'm sure if you went with a single stage, it'd probably be a lot cheaper. And if you weren't buying sealer, you know, that would be a lot cheaper too. But you could go to these paint places, talk to them, tell them your plan, and they'll help you the best that they can. The only other thing that I needed was a respirator to paint, and then some sort of paint suit coverall too for that. So with all this hooked up, I'm pretty much ready to go. I just have to blow up the paint booth, and then we'll be ready to lay the sealer down. So now I'm going to hook up this inline filter to the gun. I'm just going to use a piece of Teflon tape, wrap it around, threads there. I'm just going to screw that on like that. I'm just going to snug it down. It's 11/16 this one is, and then that piece on the gun is 9/16. So this is my old water separator setup on here, and it's really old. It's kind of rusty and just needs to be replaced. So I'm going to just start unhooking this now. All right, so I got this old boy on the bench here. I'm going to use obviously these off of it because I just replaced these. I'm going to try to use one of these shut-off valves and possibly one of these gauges on the new ones, but I'm going to take what I need off of that, and then here are the new ones, and these are all 1/2-inch NPT on the ins and outs of both of these. So I'm going to tie these together here, and then I'm going to have the airline come out of here with the valve and the gauge. so I have my new setup here. It's all complete and put together. I ended up using this gauge and this shut-off valve and have this together with the union. I ended up using thread sealant for all these connector ends here, or you could use Teflon tape. So now I'm going to take this over to the compressor and hook it up. All right, so now I got everything hooked up, filled the compressor with air, and I just took some soapy water over all the fittings here. And just check for leaks. Other than that, we're good to go. All right, so that should do it. I should be pretty much set now to kind of eliminate any kind of issues I might run into with water in the paint. So if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Thanks for watching.